Zipper rolls out to the right, pitches off to Taylor, and Taylor's to the 20, down to the 15, down to the 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Billy Taylor scored a touchdown from 21 yards out. The crowd goes berserk. It was November 22nd, 1969. That they came to Barry, Michigan, all dressed in maize and blue. The words were said, the prayers were read, and everybody cried. But when they closed the coffin, there was someone else inside. Oh, they came to Barry, Michigan, but Michigan wasn't dead. And when the game was over, it was someone else instead. 11 Michigan Wolverines put on the gloves of gray, and as the organ played the victors, they laid Woody Hayes away. Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to the Visitors Edition of the show for this Big Ten Championship Week. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. With us today is Iowa beat writer Kennington Smith from the Des Moines Register. Before he joins us, let's get started with my view from Section 17 as we do each week. What a crazy week it's been so far. As Michigan fans, this week is a whole new experience for us. Getting ready for the Big Ten Championship game, it still seems very surreal. And scheduling someone from Iowa to chat with us wasn't easy either. Most of their radio and TV guys, beat writers, also cover Hawkeye basketball, so it's double duty on a crazy week. It's been a few years since we've played Iowa, and nothing has changed. Coach Kirk Ferentz always produces a well-coached, fundamentally sound team. This year is no exception. In the last 30 years or more, I can't even remember an easy game when we've played them. They don't have the 4 or 5 star recruits, but they develop 2 and 3 star guys as well as anyone in the country. Just check out NFL rosters. Iowa started the season out on fire and was ranked as high as number 2 in the country. Then they lost to Purdue and Wisconsin. Since that time, they have bounced back and they're playing solid football. On offense, they play the game the same way as us. They have a very good offensive line and like to run the football. They have had issues with quarterback production and don't have the game-breaker receivers, but they are good enough. This is an offense that wants to run clock and pound the rock. The defense, very good. When you compare Iowa's numbers against ours, they are virtually the same. They are strong against both the run and the pass game, and they thrive on takeaways. They will be a challenge. My guest today says the Hawkeyes might be underdogs, but they are used to that, and welcome the opportunity to play Michigan. They will not be intimidated. With us on our Big Ten Visitor Show today is Hawkeye beat writer Kennington Smith from the Des Moines Register. So stay with us. Here with us on our Visitors Edition this week is Iowa beat writer Kennington Smith from the Des Moines Register. I know it's a crazy busy week for everyone, Kennington, so it's great to have you with us.
Yeah, no problem at all. Like you said, it's been a crazy week already, and we're only at the midway point, and the excitement is only going to pick up as we get closer to the game. So I'm excited to talk with you for a few minutes about, all things Hawkeyes, Wolverines, and the Big Ten, and even national implications.
Huge implications, as we all know, this week in the Big Ten championship game. But Kennington, at this time last week, a lot of Hawkeye fans were probably thinking the chances were slim and none. They would win the West. But here we are, a week later, and Iowa is heading to Indy. The fan base has to be absolutely elated.
Yeah, no, the fans are over the moon right now, and it's actually pretty ironic that Iowa beats Nebraska last Friday, and now they're turning to Minnesota, one of their biggest rivals, and cheering for them openly to beat Wisconsin, another big rival, in order to send them to the Big Ten championship. But throughout the week, and we've had a lot of media availability with players and coaches, and of course we see what the fans are saying on Twitter. There seems to be a large amount of joy about this specific team making it to the Big Ten championship. They've talked all year about how close this team is, how much they like each other, and really how much they've overcome in the last 18 months or so to get to this point. So to see a team that you thought would have an opportunity to play for a Big Ten championship, get that opportunity as a fan, is really all that you can ask for.
Very true. And in every season, as we know, there are ups and downs. It never goes the way you would like it to. And that was certainly the case for the Hawkeyes this year. They started out on fire, got up to number 2 in the country, and then, boom, lost 2 games. So it has been a roller coaster ride in some respects, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, imagine the emotional roller coaster, as a fan, as a player, as a coach, from the number 2 team in the country, and then 2 weeks later, it doesn't even look like you're making it to your conference championship game. You've been pretty much erased from the national conversation after 2 ugly losses. So there was a point in time where Iowa was 6-2, but fans were thinking that maybe it could be a 7-5 finish, or maybe even a 6-6 finish, because the losses were so bad that it was hard to kind of put together a roadmap to where Iowa could finish the season successfully. But credit to Kirk Ferentz, who has been around the block more than a few times in the Big Ten and galvanized this team. And they fought through adversity. They fought through a lot of injuries, and here they are with an opportunity to win the Big Ten.
Well, whenever Jim Harbaugh talks about Coach Ferentz, you can tell how much respect he has for the man and the coach he is, and what a solid program he's built over the years. Talk about Coach Ferentz and what he means to Iowa football.
Yeah, I think that especially this week, when we're seeing that the coaching carousel kind of take a life of its own, you appreciate the stability that Kirk Ferentz has brought to Iowa. And especially this week, when I talk about emotions and how much it means to play in this game, I think that Kirk Ferentz is at the center of that. He's gotten emotional a lot of times this year, usually after big wins. But yesterday in our weekly presser, he got emotional several times talking about this team, and the players echoed those same sentiments when we asked them about Kirk Ferentz and saying that they love him and that they couldn't imagine anybody else leading this team except for him. I think that his even keel mentality, he's very cool as a person in terms of he doesn't get too high and too low, and I think that was critical for a team that at one point was number 2 in the country and then had a free-for-all for a few weeks there, was able to kind of battle back and get to a point to where they've won 10 games, and this is only the 10th time in school history that this has happened. So it's definitely been a notable season, but I don't think that it would have gotten to this point without Kirk Ferentz, and I think that it's not lost on the fans and the players how much of an impact that he's had on the season.
Well, it's been a few years since Iowa and Michigan have met, but in most games in recent history, really, in the last 30 or 40 years, it seems to me, they've been very physical and close games. And in so many ways in how they play the game, Iowa, they and Michigan are very similar teams, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that this is definitely the better matchup for Iowa in terms of Big Ten championship opponents. Obviously, it went down to Michigan and Ohio State. I think that with some injuries that Iowa's had in their secondary, a team like Ohio State that has, multiple 5-star wide receivers, and especially playing indoors where, as Ohio State played in the snow last Saturday, that would have been a huge advantage for Ohio State without those weather conditions, and they would have been a tough matchup for Iowa. But you look at Michigan, hard-nosed team, they run the ball. They like to establish the line of scrimmage very similarly to Iowa. So, very old school, classic Big Ten type of showdown coming up, which if you're a Big Ten native and a Big Ten fan of what the conference represents, this is kind of your ideal matchup.
Well, you're right. On offense, like Michigan, the Hawkeyes want to run the football and then run it some more. And they've done that very well this year, in large part because of that offensive line led by Tyler Linderbaum. They are a very good unit, aren't they?
Yeah, the offensive line has had its ups and downs this year. They had an injury to Kyler Schott, who was named second team All Big Ten today, who missed some time early in the season. He's been battling through injuries, and he's just now starting to get healthy in this latter part, which has really helped. But this is an offensive line that, and this is my first year covering the beat, but from my understanding, freshmen usually don't start on the offensive line, and they've had two freshmen starting throughout the year. You had a All Big Ten performer hurt before the season and battling through injuries. And, of course, you have Tyler Linderbaum, who's the best offensive lineman in the country, kind of anchoring that unit. So they've taken their lumps, but now at this point I feel like they're playing their best, and they've really been peaking kind of this last month of the season, which is what you want out of any unit and out of your team. So we've seen the offense struggle throughout the year. A lot of that was because of what was happening on the offensive line. The offensive line is healthy now. We're starting to hit on all cylinders, and we've seen what Iowa's offense has been able to do over the last month as a result of the health improving on the line.
Tyler Goodson is the leading rusher for the Hawkeyes. As a matter of fact, whenever I've seen them play this year in bits and pieces, I've seen a couple of full games. I haven't seen anyone else carrying the ball, and he's run for about 1,200 yards. For Michigan fans who have not seen much of him, though, talk about just what kind of a back he is, Kennington.
Yes, the first word I think about when I think about Tyler Goodson is explosive. He's a back who can hit for big plays pretty much at any time, whether that's direct handoff or even a threat out of the backfield. Here's a statistic for you. Iowa all-time in Tyler Goodson's career are 11-0 when he has 20-plus carries. In November, he rushed for an average of 122 yards, 5.5 yards per carry in November. All of those games in November, he had 20-plus carries, and Iowa won the game. So as Tyler Goodson goes, kind of the offense goes, and that's just a nugget to hold on to if you're a Michigan fan, that if his carries are starting to pile up throughout the game, that is an indication that Iowa's offense is operating the way that they wanted to, and if they're able to establish the run game and get him going, that could be kind of a disastrous for a Michigan defense if I was able to kind of, get that momentum rolling and continue it throughout the game.
Well, I know there have been some concerns about quarterback play, but Spencer Petras has taken the majority of snaps this season. I know he's starting on Saturday. He's been splitting time recently with Alex Padilla, hasn't he?
Yeah, so with Spencer Petras, he's been the starter really since last season. And last season was kind of an up-and-down season for him statistically, but he was able to fend off Padilla in spring practice and onward. And he was playing pretty well throughout the season, but he had a tough injury against Wisconsin, insert Padilla, who went 3-0 as a starter, but was struggling against Nebraska, and Petras subbed in for him in the second half of that game and helped engineer a comeback. So with the quarterback situation, I think we're at a point now where there's not one quarterback that's just overwhelmingly better than the other. I think that both of them have strengths and weaknesses, but at this point, it's about who gives your team the best opportunity to win. When you look at Petras, he started for longer. He has more sweat equity. He has more of an understanding of the playbook. He can direct more traffic at the line of scrimmage, and he's just more experienced going into a game like this, biggest game of the season, going up against a very talented, very experienced defense. You want a quarterback who's been through those battles. I mean, Iowa's played big games this year at Iowa State. That was a top 10 game. Penn State, that was a top 4 matchup. On the road at Maryland, at that point, Maryland was 4-0. That was a nationally televised game. That was a big spot for Iowa. So he's kind of been in those moments, and he's been through those battles, and I feel like the coaching staff is kind of leaning on that experience in this game. But with that being said, if something were to go awry on offense, Kirk Ferentz has said that he doesn't have a problem going to Padilla for a spark plug.
Well, like Michigan, Iowa has a very stout defense. When you look at the numbers, there's virtually no difference between the two defenses. The Hawkeyes just really don't have many weak spots to attack, do they, Kennington?
Right. No, not at all. I mean, it's a defense that is extremely disciplined. We have Phil Parker, of course, somebody who has been there for a long time and one of the top assistants in the country. I mean, this is a defense that usually doesn't beat themselves. And the only team that I've seen do it this year in a way where they've kind of methodically attacked them is Purdue. From what I understand, that's just a very tough matchup for Iowa's defense, and they're an offense in Purdue that just kind of knows how to attack them. But this is a defense that prides itself on not allowing explosive plays. So that's going to be paramount in this game. This is a matchup of really good defenses, I think. I don't think this is going to be much of a shootout. I see this more of a defensive struggle. So yards are going to be at a premium and big plays are going to be at a premium. So defensively, if you miss an assignment, if you take a bad angle, that could result in one play that could really change the course of the game. So I think that if you're Michigan or Iowa on the other side, it's going to be a matter of out-executing the other side of the ball because this is a defense that is extremely disciplined, just like Michigan's is as well.
Exactly right. I think scoring is going to be at a premium in this game. One of the very impressive things about this Iowa defense is they have caused a lot of turnovers, haven't they?
Yeah, I think that's been the hallmark of this defense. And I think it was after the Maryland game where they forced 7 turnovers. There was a question going around at media availability of, is this luck or is this skill? And the players said that it's more skill and preparation than anything because Phil Parker schemes them up to be at the right place at the right time. And as a defender, if your coach is going to put you in that position, then it's your responsibility to make that play, which we've seen Iowa do a lot this year. You look around the country, there have even been games that Iowa's played where there have been defenders who have been in position to make plays against Iowa's offense who have dropped interceptions or maybe haven't recovered a fumble at the right time. And usually don't see Iowa's defense not capitalize on those type of mistakes. So this is a defense that's well prepared, opportunistic, and more than anything, if you give them an opportunity to make a play and to get a turnover, more times than not, they're going to complete that play.
Well, again, for Michigan fans who have not seen a lot of the Hawkeyes this year, who are some of the standout guys on that defense that have been the leaders this year?
Yeah, if you're looking at the defensive line, I would say Zach Van Valkenburg, number 97 at defensive end. He's been the kind of the anchor on a young defensive line. At the linebacker core, Jack Campbell, all Big Ten selection, 125 tackles. He's had interceptions, pick sixes, fumble recoveries for touchdowns. So he's somebody who kind of anchors that defense. The secondary is kind of where Iowa has made their name over the last several years. So I would say Riley Moss at cornerback, number 33, and Dane Belton, who I believe leads the Big Ten in interceptions with 5, number 4 at safety. Both of those were first-team All-Big Ten selections, leading that secondary. So plenty of names to know, but those are kind of the difference makers at each level.
Belton's name we know well from high school. He played at Belleville just outside of Detroit, too.
Oh, wow. Learn something new every day.
Heck of a player. We know they have a lot of standout players on that defense, so that's going to be a fascinating matchup on both sides of the ball. But as we know all too well here in Michigan, we've never played in the Big Ten championship game, but Iowa made it there in 2015. They were unbeaten, and man, did they lose in heartbreaking fashion to the Spartans. And I know this is your first year on the beat, but that has to be something, especially this week, that still stings there in Iowa.
Yeah, I think that when just kind of looking at this game, let me backtrack for a second. Minnesota beating Wisconsin and Iowa advancing to the Big Ten championship. I think that there was a moment for coaches, players, and fans that sunk into them that these type of opportunities to play for a Big Ten championship do not come around often at a program like Iowa. And they're a successful program, and they're a program that's usually nationally ranked and pretty prominent, but just the Big Ten is so tough that making it to the Big Ten championship is not necessarily a foregone conclusion, maybe for a program like Ohio State that recruits at a high clip and is used to playing on that stage. So it's not lost on these players and the coaches what type of opportunity that they have. Obviously, the memories of 2015 linger, but I think that maybe that's even more of a motivating factor to kind of complete the job this time in 2021. And this year is different from 2015. Iowa's not undefeated. They are heavy underdogs to Michigan, and they're kind of embracing that underdog role. And they're kind of paying attention a little bit to the fact that a lot of the attention is focused on Michigan and maybe even from people on Twitter or national pundits that are kind of riding Michigan into the college football playoff, winning this game. That's kind of a chip on the shoulder for Iowa. So definitely different situation from last Big Ten championship to this one, but I would say that the motivation is just as high, if not higher, to complete the mission this time.
Well, this Saturday night, the matchups are intriguing. When Iowa has the ball, they will do what they do and try to run against this Michigan front. They probably have to have some success early in the game because no one wants to get behind with these two defenses. Neither of these teams are really built to get into a shootout or come from behind. So that's going to be key to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think Iowa's biggest problem this year has just been they've started so slow. 3 times this year they've had to overcome double-digit deficits, and they've won those games. But I think that this is an opponent in Michigan that is not the opponent that you want to get behind double digits. Obviously, you never want to fall behind to any opponent, but the degree of difficulty in coming back on a Michigan defense, especially when you have the defensive ends that they have, they're going to be able to rush the passer. You get behind in this game and you turn into a pass-heavy team, and Michigan's defensive ends are able to kind of pin their ears back and chase the quarterback. That's a recipe for a disaster for Iowa. So you want to stay ahead of the chains. You want to convert on third down. You want to put points on the board when you can and try your best to neutralize Michigan's aggressive defense. And then on the other end, the way that Michigan ran the ball against Ohio State, for them to have a commanding lead and they're just, imposing their will on the line of scrimmage, eating up that clock, that's another recipe for disaster for that defense. So starting fast is definitely going to be a critical point in this game, and I know there's going to be a point of emphasis to kind of right the wrongs of earlier games this season where they haven't been able to do that.
Well, you're right on your take defensively, too. The Hawkeyes do need to control that Michigan running game and get them off their game early, because I'm sure with as well-rounded and solid as that Hawkeye defense is, they'd rather see Michigan throwing the ball.
Yeah, definitely. You want to force Michigan into situations that is favorable for Iowa's defense. I mean, this is a young defensive line, relatively undersized defensive line, which isn't new for Iowa. But in this type of game where Michigan is going to have a lot of confidence after running for nearly 300 yards on Ohio State, they're going to want to establish the line of scrimmage. And Iowa's defense has put on tape a few times this year that if you have a strong, big offensive line and you can establish run, you can have success on this team. Wisconsin was an example of that. They established a run early and was able to have success in that game. Minnesota, even though they lost that game, rushed for nearly 200 yards on Iowa's defense, which is not the norm here. So there are some opportunities on tape that Coach Harbaugh can point to and emphasize to his offensive line that if we establish a line of scrimmage, we'll be put into a situation where we don't have to throw it against Iowa's secondary, because we know that that's a large reason for Iowa's success this year, that the secondary is able to force turnovers, set up the offense in favorable field position, and they score off of that. So not allowing Iowa to get into that kind of complementary football mode that they like to get into is going to be a huge key for Michigan.
Well, final question before we let you get away, Kennington. The Michigan beat writers that I've talked to this week all expect Saturday's game to be very physical, very tight. And Michigan, depending on who you talk to, probably has a talent edge on the Hawkeyes. But for the most part, these two teams are really evenly matched, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that this is a game where, if you're into the point spread betting, I'll probably take Iowa in the points. I just think that it's going to be a very close game. I think this is going to be a game, especially when two teams want to run the ball. This might be a shorter game. Teams not really wanting to throw the ball unless they have to. So I expect this to be a one-possession, tightly contested, physical game. Two teams that are playing for a lot. Obviously, Michigan got over a huge hump against Ohio State, and I know they want to finish the job and move on to the college football playoff. Iowa's had a special season. I know that they want to win the Big Ten championship for the first time in a long time and advance to a New Year's Six Bowl, which would be a huge opportunity for the program on a national level. So these are teams with a lot of motivation. They're going to be playing for a lot. And when those two teams converge on the same field, you're just going to see a lot of intensity, a lot of emotion. And as a fan watching the game and as media members who cover the game, that's what you want to see.
Absolutely. It's a credit to both coaches and both teams for getting this far when back in August, no one mentioned either Iowa or Michigan. So it should be a humdinger, as they say in Indy on Saturday night. With us here on our Visitors Edition today has been Iowa beat writer Kennington Smith from the Des Moines Register. Again, Kennington, thank you so much during a crazy busy week for everyone for carving out a few minutes for us, and we look forward to getting you back in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of this week. Like I said, it's been exciting. It's been a lot of fun conversation, and it's only going to continue as we get closer and closer to the game.
On Quick Hits today, we are as healthy right now as we've been since early in the season, so injuries will not be a factor in this Big Ten championship game. I've heard from a lot of you this week about how nervous you are about this game. That's okay, so am I. This Michigan team is different, though. They've proven that to us all year. I don't think there will be any letdown after that monumental Ohio State win last Saturday. This team has great leadership, and you know that as of Monday, they turned their attention to beating Iowa and winning a Big Ten championship. They know what is at stake in this game. Win, and you're in the playoffs. That's not to say Saturday's game will not be a nail-biter, but I think the mental makeup of this team is built to play under pressure and deliver. They've proven that to us many times this season. We don't have to worry about the weather in Lucas Oil Stadium on Saturday. It will be perfect. Game time is just after 8 p.m. Saturday evening. So let's just soak it all up on Saturday and enjoy this opportunity. There weren't many of us that thought this would be the year we made it to Indy, but here we are. We've earned it, and I can't wait. That will do it for now. Next week we'll be back to recap the Big Ten championship game and hopefully be talking about a trip to the playoffs and who our opponent will be. Joining us will be beat writer Aaron McMahon from MLive. So make sure you tune in next week. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine weekend, everyone. Think victory, beat Iowa, and we will be Big Ten champions. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue.
Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!